Welcome to the Success Builders podcast. If you're an entrepreneur seeking motivation, inspiration, and real-world strategies to grow your business, you're in the right place. Here we believe success isn't a destination, it's a journey filled with golden nuggets of wisdom shared from one business owner to another. I'm Liz Nanell, a real estate agent, mentor, entrepreneur, and your host on this exciting path. In every episode, I'll bring you valuable insights from entrepreneurs who's been in the trenches, built their dreams, and are ready to share their secrets with you. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to new heights, this is your space to learn, grow, and connect. Let's dive in and build success together. Good day and welcome to all of our Success Builders podcast listeners. Today we have a very, very special guest, someone that I have met a couple of years ago and I am extremely fond of, a hero in my personal business, Mr. Steven Levy from the company Dare to Be. Steven, welcome, and I'm looking forward to spending this time with you.
Well, first of all, thank you, Liz, for that wonderful introduction, which I'm humbled by, because honestly, it's a privilege to be on your podcast. And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Steven. I think it's so awesome that in life we always cross paths with people that are meant to be in our life. And I honestly feel that way about you. I love you as a person and I love what you're doing with your business and what you do for other business owners. So tell us a little bit about your journey up to Dare to Be and how you founded that.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible, which is a challenge for me. So here goes. So yeah, I think, it's something that I think we all need to do. And it was something that actually that sat with me from school days even. And that thing is, there's two things. The one is I'm of the firm belief that everybody has something unique to offer the world. And the second thing, which is the core of Dare to Be, is to inspire people to respect each other in their differences. And the two go hand in hand, because how do we know what our differences are if we actually don't understand ourselves and what our uniqueness is? So that's the one core factor of what led me to launching Dare to Be. But it took me a long time to discover that. I only discovered that when I was 54 years old. So probably people think I'm a bit of a slow decision maker. But the journey to that was in my own business. I discovered that what really got me out of bed in the morning was not the business itself. It was developing the people that were in my business, and especially in the fashion industry, because I'm the furthest thing from fashion. And I quickly realized that, yes, I would get up out of bed to see how could I get my people to be the best they can. And as I got further and further into the business, something I cannot tell you what, because it happened just one day. I stopped my car actually on the way home, and something said to me, you need to explore this thing that's inside you. And so I went for coaching. And I went for coaching because of my age. I had a mental block about starting a new business and so on at 54 years old. But it was probably the best thing that I could do. So I went on a 6-month journey of introspection. And in that journey, I discovered that I had to dare to be myself. So I had to face those hard truths about myself and really go on that deep dive journey. And that's where, and then that was kind of like the birth of Dare to Be coaching and beyond. And then I went and studied coaching for 2 years, part-time, because I was had my own business to run as well. But that's
amazing. I absolutely love it. I have known you, but I have not known this story. I have not heard how all of this came about. And I think it's such a beautiful message, because we sometimes put constrictions on ourselves, our mind, with our age and where we are in life and where we should be and where we shouldn't be and what we can do and what we can't. And I honestly feel that you were born to do what you are doing right now. And yes, we all have to build up life experience, but I think you've got such a perfect personality fit for what you are doing. I'm always amazed by your view on something. You can listen to a story or look at something and then come with a complete different angle just to put someone else's mind in a different space, which I think is a talent. Now, I know you work nationally and you also work internationally. So if you want to tell us a little bit about the type of work that you're doing now for companies and individuals, give us a little bit of insight into that.
So, yeah, Disney, I think the first thing is that it's all centered around people getting to understand their uniqueness. And it comes, as I said, if I can repeat it, off the base of inspiring people to respect each other and their differences. And that's globally. And I think it's a big problem in the world, or why the world is where it is, because we don't respect each other in our differences. So I chose the conduit of leadership to achieve that. And the reason I chose the conduit of leadership is because of my experience in corporate, in the private sector, in my own businesses, and very much from the sports field. I learned about the influence and impact that leadership has on the people that they're leading. So that's where I specifically work. And leadership is really, it's a responsibility that they have to the people they're leading. And they can make a difference if they can just get, I believe their responsibility is to understand their people, because if they want to grow their business, they have to grow their people. The business is made up of people. You can have the best systems in the world. Even in the technology age today, it's about leading people, because behind technology, there are people. Yes, I know we're going into AI and all these things and robots. I don't understand half the stuff.
We definitely can't replace the human factor.
Correct. Yeah. So I think the message for me and my purpose is that I can hopefully make a difference and guide and support leaders to grow their people, to grow their business. That
makes so much sense. And I actually think of my journey and my road that I have gone with you, and something that your logo says, and you've just touched on, but you've never said to me, but I don't even think you realize that just in the sessions that you do, people lead to self-discovery. They lead to finding out who they are. And it's almost as if, without knowing that, you give permission for people to authentically be themselves. And that's something that I can definitely thank you for in the journey that we've personally had, where through questions that you ask, through just shining a little light on a specific thing within a bigger picture, you have given me the awareness, the self-awareness of authenticity. And that has led me to understand the people that I work with better, because I accept myself for who I am. And that allows me to also encourage them to accept themselves for who they are. And I think that leads to something so beautiful for people to interact and respect each other for who they are, but also uplift one another for who they are.
Yeah, that's actually, wow, it's amazing. And so there for me, that's so fulfilling to hear that, because that's exactly my purpose. That's exactly why I do what I do. And I just love it. And that's what I discovered during this journey of introspection. When I looked back, even though at 54 years old, only then did I see why I behaved like I did. And even in my school days, specifically on the sports field, because I think if it wasn't for sport, I wouldn't have been at school, much to my parents' disgust. But it did. I learned so much from sport. And then the other thing is that, what I say is, it helped me see what I knew, but I wasn't seeing. And then I could kind of put the pieces together and say, okay, this is why you did that. And what came to the surface was this natural ability to let people see their uniqueness. And then I was able to associate that with different situations and different experiences I had at school, in those days when I went into the military, in corporate, in my own businesses. It all came to the surface. Hence, again, going into the coaching industry. And I just wanted to, there was something that you touched on about the experience. So one of my blocks, as I said, was my age. But my coach that I had, she was magnificent. She said to me, she said, when I told her and unpacked my whole life's journey, which has had its ups and downs, like all of us, she said to me, listening to your story and what you naturally do and your passion for uplifting people or letting people realize their potential, she said, how good a coach would you have been at 25? And that was kind of the pivot point to say it's okay to coach at 54.
100%. That was exactly what I thought when I just heard your journey now, and I'm going to call it your fear, because I feel like we've got these fears and things that we install in our mind. And I believe all of the knowledge that you've gained through the businesses in your career, in your life, has prepared you at the age of 54 to get to that place where you do this full career change, but you could be such a blessing for other people. Now, if we can jump a little bit to the processes, because obviously when you work with me, it's a one-to-one situation, and we meet up and we analyze a couple of things and we chat about some topics and some subjects within the business and personally for me. But I also know that you use tools such as you've done for myself and for some of the members of my team, where we look specifically at what your strengths or your talents are. So if you can tell us a little bit more about that, and also about other tools that you might use or strategies that you've got within teams and how you assist people in companies.
So, yeah, thank you for asking that, because firstly, I must tell you that I'm very aware through my own experience that it's not a one-size-fits-all. Absolutely not. Everybody is how Listener shows up in the world and approaches her business, and how Steven does and how John does or Susan does or so on. Everyone's different. Even if we're looking to achieve the same outcomes, how we get there is different. So that I really I take that to heart. And so hence my reason for coaching a journey, not a program. And I say that with the utmost respect to programs that are out there. I do, however, have a framework within which I coach that keeps us sort of focused on what the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. So like with yourself and so on, I have tools in my toolbox, if you want to call it, that I will bring out when and if necessary. So I don't use, the only tool that I actually really do use, which is part of the coaching journey, is that Gallup's assessment, the StrengthsFinder assessment. And the reason, and I've done a lot of assessments, and again, I say that they're all exceptionally good. The reason that I chose that one is because it's not a personality assessment, it's more performance assessment, not in what you do, but how you do things. So how do we all have natural behavioral thought and behavioral patterns, that these are the talents that we're gifted with in how we think and behave in various situations. And when we understand that, we're able to then create an environment where we can take that thought and behavior coupled with our skills and experience in whatever industry we're in, and not only related to work, even in our relationships. And that's where we really hit the sweet spot. The talent on itself, how I think and behave, is not going to make me a good coach or a good engineer or a good architect. And the skill on its own will probably allow me to achieve what I want to, but at best, it probably prevent failure. When I'm able to put the two together, the skill set, the knowledge, the experience, and that talent, that's the difference between mediocrity and excellence.
I love that. And I have experienced what you just said. So several years back, I did try a coaching program as well, because I've always been someone that firmly believes in the process for personal growth. And I think whether it's you as an individual or you as part of a team or as a team leader or even just being a wife and a mom, for your personal growth, you need to experience things from outside. You do need to tap into resources. So I did try. I almost want to say what you've explained now or what you said in the past with someone that was very procedural driven or process driven. And for me, I immediately struggled because I pride myself on not fitting into a box. I love to change every week how I go about because I believe I'm continuously growing. So the listener this year versus the listener last year would be a different person. She'd think differently. She would approach things differently because you learn from those experiences. So I think that's something that has really spoken to me in how you approach the whole process of coaching, is that there is no one size fits all. I have never felt like something that you have done or we've spoken about or an exercise that we've done was like a tick box process that we need to go through in order to get to the next phase, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, Liz, first of all, I want to just comment on the statement that you just made, is that the listener, how she thinks last year and how she thinks this year is different. I just want to slightly correct that. Your thought and behavioral patterns and these talents that you have, you've been gifted with, we've each been gifted with from birth. How we manage them and how we use that, depending on say if the situation was different last year, you would have still used those same thought and behavioral patterns, but probably differently to the way you do it this year in maybe a different situation or environment. So you call on these different talents, which you're doing already, and a lot of us are doing it unconsciously. When we start becoming conscious of it, we're able to manage it. And, it's kind of you need to become aware of how you think and behave before you can manage it. You can't manage what you're not aware of. But a lot of these things come so naturally to us that we actually do it unconsciously. And I must tell you that this is where I need to go in defense of that statement, that there is a statement or statistics that are made that a lot of people leave their places of employ, not because of work, but because of bad leadership or poor leadership. Yes, I think there's a lot of research done on it, but there is one thing I want to add to that. And sometimes, yes, it is poor leadership, but I need to add to that. It's not intentional. Some leaders, yes, I've met that are intentional. They are narcissistic. They are autocratic, but often it's not intentional. And the reason is because the way we think and behave comes so naturally to us that we believe that because it comes easily to me, it comes easy. This is how the world is. This is how the world approaches different situations. And why? So that question is, why wouldn't you do it this way? It's so easy. Yes, it's easy for Steven. It's not easy for listener. Steven, as a leader, needs to find out what comes easily to listener so that he can support her and put in the best position for her to achieve the same outcomes that we're trying to achieve.
I absolutely love that. And I think this is something that you have said to me before. And I have to tell you a little story just because we touched on AI in the conversation. So one of the things that I recently learned at the EXP Con, obviously we all know about ChatGPT, but I have learned a lot more about AI while I was there. And then funny enough, they said that the ChatGPT or OpenAI that you're working with, they taught us to do different commands for it. And one of the things that they said was an interesting question after you've worked with that, let's call it that robot for that amount of time, is the data that it builds up on you. And what you should do is you should ask it what in all of the things that it's asking you, what does the OpenAI or ChatGPT think that you are actually not seeing? And that was quite an interesting thing because it said exactly what you just said and what we've spoken about before, where the OpenAI said, listener, you might often not see the degree that you're doing things at and that it's not that easy for other people. And I just found it so interesting because OpenAI said it after me working with it. I said it's becoming my best friend. And you just pulling from people and saying that same thing. And that is so important because I think the most interesting thing when someone does these talent tests and you start going into that is the awareness, like you've said, but also the awareness for other people's strengths. I think it's such an interesting thing when you see those 5 or 10 top talents that you naturally go into, because at the current place in my life, professionally that I am, I kind of feel like it just happened to me. Like it ended up one day and I'm like, oh, here I am now. And I've got this group of agents and everything else going on. But when I did that, I realized it's because what is required of me to do that is connecting with people and some other skills. And those happen to all fall within those top talents of me. So the things that I am doing now comes naturally, which I am required to do in order to get the results for where I am. So it's very interesting that you're saying that.
Yeah, I think it's just important that we just stop a bit, and even, without doing any assessments, even just to stop and give some thought as to where were there spaces or situations where I felt most energized, and to give some thought to that and actually note that down. And if there are specific places where you've been in a situation at work or otherwise where you've really felt energized and it's a space that suits you, and we all have that we know what that environment looks like, we're just probably not taking note of it. Once we understand that, my question is, why don't we, if it is a space that energizes, why don't we put ourselves in that environment more often? I'm not saying all the time, because it's not always possible. Life happens and we've got businesses to run and so on. So what I do have, which I just wanted to chat to you about in answer to your one comment that you said, what does my process look like? Ideal for me, the most important part of my whole coaching process is the first introductory session that I have with any prospective client. I don't care how long that takes, until we're both absolutely clear on what they're trying to achieve and what needs to happen, what needs to change. Then we can start, then I will put a proposal through and we will start the coaching process. I do it within a framework, and the framework consists of 4 pillars. It's leading self, leading change, elevating team excellence, and igniting growth, and all in that order. Because it's going to be very difficult to build a high-performing team, or a high-performing cohesive team, as I say, which we need to do today because we live in an extremely competitive world, until you understand yourself. And when you understand yourself, as you correctly said, without somebody else even doing the talents, with the understanding that what comes naturally to you does not come naturally to others, just having that understanding, your communication with them will change. So what can I do to support you, listener, in getting to where you want to go? Because the journey is not about me, it's about you. And it's one of my 2 rules of leadership. I have 2 rules for leadership. The one is it starts with you, because you are ultimately responsible for any outcomes or that you're trying to achieve. But the second rule is it's not about you. And if any leadership you can see in business, in countries that make it about them, it'll go south.
I love that. You answered my next question, which would have been, who would be your ideal client? But I think with this process that you run, and I also have gone through that process, I remember going, oh no, I like Steven and the way that he's working, I want to go ahead. But you would follow your process until you know exactly what we want to achieve before we would go ahead, which I really like. Yeah. But if you want to just end us off by telling us, for those listeners, who knows that they need to make contact with you, tell us who should reach out to you.
I think it's business owners or leaders, because leadership is a very broad word. It's a title given to a position that carries a lot of responsibility. So my thing is, as a leader, don't get married to the title, get married to the responsibility that goes with the title. It's just something that they call leadership. So my ideal, if leadership themselves recognize, and they do, that maybe their people, here are some of the things that get said to me. Their people are not on the same page. They're not performing as they should be. They're not taking responsibility for what they're doing. They're not taking ownership. And a lot of the businesses I'm working with are actually successful businesses that are looking to that are experiencing growth and looking to go to the next level, or just want to improve their efficiency inside their business. Those are my ideal clients, those business owners / leaders, because they are leaders, be it in private sector or in corporate. They're leaders of teams. But there is one thing that I will put in that. Okay? I want to work with leaders who are intentionally committed to growing their people, If you're not intentionally committed to doing what it takes, and I don't say this arrogantly, I can't work with you because it's not my journey. I'll walk your journey with you, not for you. And if you're not prepared to walk that journey and do what it takes, I'm not the guy with the magic wand that's going to get the results for you. And I have a firm belief that leaders that I work with, and I've experienced it, and it's proven the statement that I'm going to make. Okay? They know what needs to be done. They're not necessarily seeing it because they're sitting inside the box. The privilege that I have is I sit outside the box and I can listen to them and I can help them see what they know, but they're not seeing. So it's not that I'm this guru that comes along and then we just like.
No, it's a process. It's a process. Yeah, the performance that you've got throughout that journey and how you really invest and find out, the more information you receive, obviously, the more helpful you can be. So we're going to post this on the episode as well, but just give us a quick heads up. Where do we normally reach out to you? I'm assuming your website. Do you prefer WhatsApp or email? What is your preference for people to reach out to you?
Whatever they're comfortable with. So there's my website. I don't even must...
you can say it, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it's Dare to Be Coaching and Beyond. .co.za. It is my LinkedIn profile. People have reached out to me on LinkedIn. I can send that to you.
Please do. Yeah, we'll definitely just add it on at the bottom of the episode so people would be able to reach out to you.
And then on WhatsApp, I know WhatsApp is a very convenient and easy tool to initially connect through. So I'm very aware of that. Time is a precious commodity in our lives. And I see that people, and even with myself, are using WhatsApp a lot more often because it's just so easy and it's quick.
Easy to reach out in that way. I know, Steven, I could talk to you forever and for hours, but production would get mad at me. So I'll have to end us off. To those listeners wanting to reach out to Steven, you could not go wrong, even if it's just for one conversation. I want to just thank you while I've got the opportunity here for everything that you've done in my life. And I know that you will continue to do. You've truly become a friend for me in business, but also personally. And I want to encourage all of our listeners to Success Builders. If you want to grow as a person, if you want to invest in other people because you've got a passion for that, reach out to Steven. You will never look back. Steven, thanks a lot. Chat soon.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you for tuning in to the Success Builders podcast. I hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a renewed spark of inspiration to take your business to the next level. Remember, success is built one step at a time, and we're here to walk that journey with you. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur who could use some motivation. And if you want to dive deeper or connect with me personally, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out on LinkedIn, Instagram, or visit lesnanel.com to get in touch. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep chasing that success.